Good morning everyone. The sun is shining. I'm not in my room, which means it's So the Trends time. So I thought I'd risk a walk and talk. This is a bit out of my comfort zone. If I trip over, which is quite likely, apologies. So yes, So the Trends. So we are heading into Covent Garden. It is the most beautiful day. I've actually waited for the whole week to do this because it's been so grizzly. But yes, I'm very excited. I've done a little bit of research before, so I'm going to take you with me on all the shops and we will see what we can find. So I've made it to Covent Garden. It is absolutely beautiful. The sun is shining and I'm really looking forward to going into all the shops. So one thing to note before I get going, we have got a double points event happening this weekend. So that means that any patterns that you buy, you get double points, so you can add kind of extra discount to your next purchase of patterns. And of course, someone has started banging at this exact moment. So I'm going to go and hit the shops now. So what I usually like to do is start in Covent Garden, because there's quite a lot of nice shops actually, and then I will head into Soho to kind of tick off anything that I haven't had a look at. I like it because all the shops are quite close together here, and obviously it's absolutely beautiful in Covent Garden. If you are ever coming to London, this is a really nice, if you come early, I'm here at like 10 o'clock when the shops open. It's super quiet and you can whiz round, and yeah, basically none of the tourists have arrived yet. Actually just going to be walking past one of my dad's favourite pubs. I'm going to take you with me. So if you do ever come to Covent Garden, this is the best pub. It's called the Lamb and Flag. It's on Rose Street. It's tucked down a little alleyway, and me and my dad always used to come here for drinks. And there is a very cute and little cut through to Floral Street. So if I take you, you can see just down there. Let's go. It's amazing. This is what I love about Covent Garden. There's always like really fun little so yeah, here we go. We're going through the tunnel. Yeah. So you come through this tiny little tunnel and come out the other side. And you're then in Floral Street, which has got loads of the kind of independent shops. Let me show you. So we're just heading there now. So yeah, we're just going to walk down and see what we can find. But yeah, if you're ever in Covent Garden, it's the amazing pub. It's been there forever. It's really, really old, and yeah, I love it. So we're now in the very, very beautiful Floral Street behind me. So it's got lots and lots of independent shops, so it's a good one to start with. And actually a brand new Uniqlo that I haven't noticed before, so I might head in there first. Just cutting through St Martin's courtyard to kind of go round into sort of the Seven Dials bit. The thing I've noticed is that everything's very muted, no print, yeah, really dark sort of tones, loads of interesting textures, which is sort of what I'd read about before I came. Yeah, so I feel like basically what you've got in your wardrobe, or what you're planning to make, or you've got in your handmade wardrobe, I think you'll be able to basically piece a lot of stuff together that you already have and then make a couple of extra bits. Loads of satin, that was fabric wise, I've really noticed a lot of satin. That's probably it so far, but yeah, really muted. I'm so surprised that there are no prints. I can't believe that. I'm going to keep going. So I feel like I've done the sort of main drag of Covent Garden, and now I'm going down to Neal Street, which has got probably slightly younger shops like Urban Outfitters, Nobody's Child, and I will see what I can find in there. But yeah, I've just come from Seven Dials, which if you've never been before is amazing. It's like this funny little roundabout with 7 roads coming off it, and the kind of central bit is really tiny, so there's loads of great shops off it as well. So if you are in Covent Garden, Seven Dials is nice as well to head to. Right, so I think that is me done. I'm going to go home and do my homework now. I've got a really good idea of some patterns. I think my sort of takeaways now is lots of really wearable pieces, stuff that you probably will have kind of in your wardrobe or in your plans. Very muted colours, lots of lovely textures. Yeah, I think the high street has definitely played it safe this season, and I can imagine that's because of everything that's happening in the world at the moment and the election. But yeah, it's definitely felt like a safe play. Lots of outerwear, actually. That was one thing I really noticed. Loads and loads of really lovely coats. But yeah, I think there's something for everyone. So I'm going to go home, do my homework, and then I will report back. Right, back from town. It's the next day. I've done my homework. And there is so much to talk about this time. I think I'm going to split it into 2 videos like I did before. So I'm going to start now with sort of fabrications, pattern, colours, like styling things that I noticed, and then I'll go into the clothing. I think I'll start with outerwear and see how I go. There is a lot of outerwear to get through this time. So when I do these videos, I kind of do it in a kind of, I'll just explain a bit how I do it. So I will look at Fashion Week, kind of the winter one, so I can make sure, see what's happening at the kind of top end. Then I will kind of go away and do research, read stuff that people have written. And then I will then head into the shops to see whether those sort of things because a lot of times I find things are written about that then sort of don't trickle down into the high street. So some of the things that were written, which I thought were interesting, and this is kind of before I got going, and I completely agree with it. So there's a lot of chat about slow trend cycles, which essentially means that there hasn't been a huge shift in trends. This is down to what is going on economically, and the kind of a sentence that I found that I read that I thought felt kind of really close was there's less of a focus on silhouette and more on materials and tactility, and I really noticed that throughout the shops. Muted colour palettes, but lots of different lovely textures, a real sort of heritage feeling to the clothing. There's been quite a few interesting also collaborations, like Alexa Chung has done a collaboration with Barber, which I thought was like a perfect pairing, and her photo shoot she did was in an allotment. I'll pop a picture up so you can have a look, but it feels kind of like very kind of rooted and British this season. So let's have a look. I've got like notebooks, I've got my laptop, so excuse me if I'm looking down, it's just there's a lot to get through. So fabrication wise, first up we have got satin, and I love this. I think it adds a real richness to your kind of outfit. You can see the kind of colours that they've used here, lots of blacks, jewelry tones, but really I did see this everywhere, and it was used in dresses, tops, bottoms, so it wasn't kind of one specific area. I think you could use this across anything you wanted to make, and it would instantly add some sort of, as we were talking about, like texture, adding some different texture to your outfit. Next up, leather, another huge trend for this season. Particularly I would say skirts and trousers. This featured very heavily. Particularly this sort of pencil style skirt. I saw lots of these in leather, and most of the shops now are using PU leather rather than real leather, which is great. And then also lots of trousers as well. So you can see here that the colour palette is very muted, and it was the same in all the shops, kind of blacks, browns and dark greens for the leather. So yeah, that one is definitely worth having a look at. Shearling was up next. Now this really featured very heavily, and again going back to the mixing materials, this adds a really lovely rich sort of texture to an outfit, and you can see I mainly saw them in jackets, and lots of different styles of jackets, so actually it's more about the fabric than the actual shape. But yes, lots and lots of shearling. Print wise was very low on the ground, I would say. There were some dark sort of paisleys, but very, like, not very print heavy at all. The main print, which I am delighted about because I absolutely love it, is leopard print. This was everywhere. Again, spans all types of, you know, dresses, jackets, trousers, you name it, leopard print. And I am so here for the leopard print. I love it. And I just think it looks great with everything. Has anyone seen that book by Erica Davis that's like leopard print is neutral? And I completely agree. It just works with everything. So it's time for us to get our leopard on. Then in terms of kind of styling, I guess this would fall into, I really noticed that there was a huge amount of sort of tonal dressing. So you can see here, particularly the Zara one, it's a play again with the texture. So you've got the lovely kind of satin blouse with a kind of either a kind of knitted skirt, and this sort of mix of textures but all in one sort of colour palette seemed to feature a lot. So you can see the M&S one on the side with the lady, and she's got kind of this like oat coloured coat with a camel thing, and so there are kind of changes but they're all within a tonal palette, and this featured a lot, which I think actually looks really kind of chic. And I love actually the jigsaw one with the leather trousers and then the jumper in the same colour. Then sort of following on from that, we were talking about this texture play. So this definitely featured on all of the mannequins in the shop. Mixing of textures, the kind of, I feel like with the leather and the shearling, they're really kind of nice contrasting, and the satin that adds some sheen. Those things all work really well together, and they, again, it's like a real mix of texture. So that is something to kind of, if you're playing around with your wardrobe, have a look at what you've got, and I'm sure you can get some pieces to kind of get in play with the texture. So let's have a look, before we get into everything, colour. Again, I feel like this is reflecting sort of the economic climate, very, very muted. So you can see, let's start on the far side with the kind of very kind of charcoaly grey. Then we've got a lovely kind of oaty colour. Then we've got black, featured very, very heavily black for this season. Probably kind of a newer colour that wasn't here last year is this chocolate brown. It's kind of bitter chocolate brown, like almost like dark chocolate. This was featured again very heavily. This lovely, lovely sort of muddy green, which I really enjoyed. I particularly saw quite a lot of this in outerwear. And then this kind of very, very deep burgundy, which I think is really beautiful. So actually, when you look at them all together, they're all interchangeable with each other. They all look really nice together. The other great thing is, I bet that you either have some stuff already in your wardrobe that ticks these boxes, or you've got some fabric in your stash already that again ticks one of these boxes that you could then kind of get out and kind of plan what you're going to make for autumn. So let's start with outerwear, because of everything that was happening in the world, I definitely noticed that there was everything was they played it quite safe this season. The place where I feel like there was more things on offer was in outerwear, and I feel that's because a lot of people invest in one item for winter, and it's often their coat. So there was a really great offering within the outerwear section, and I love this time of year because I get always excited about coats. So let's start with the first one. Bomber jackets were very much in this season. You can see here they're very muted colour palette, lots of them in sort of creams, but different silhouettes. You can see the Zara one's got a kind of really big sleeve, whereas the Me and M one doesn't. The M&S one is oversized, so it's almost, as I was saying kind of before, it's more kind of colour and texture than actual silhouette. So a couple of options on the bomber jacket. The first one is the Fibre Mood Mini Vinny jacket, and I picked this one because I felt like this was a really nice boxy shape. You can see that it has pockets on it. You can also make this into a little vest if you wanted to. And then it's got elastic around the bottom to give it that kind of bubble shape that you expect from a bomber jacket. Then next up we've got Trend Patterns bomber jacket, which is one that's been around for ages. I put this one in as well because I felt it's got a slightly more slimline silhouette, and I liked the kind of details of the zip just here, which felt quite nice. And I feel like this shape would work because it's slightly slimmer fitting. I feel like this would work in a nice chunky fabric as well. So those are my two options for you in terms of bomber jackets. Next up, we've got what I'm calling the car coat. This, I've also heard people call it a barn coat. Massive, massive kind of trend for this season. I think probably if you look at the mango one in terms of the colours, this was the kind of colour that featured the most across the high street. So a kind of sandy coloured coat. Crucial detail is this cord collar, which again ties back to what I was talking about earlier, kind of the British heritage feel, very much kind of very traditional, kind of like barber style collar with that in cord. You can see here that I've got the shape of the coats do vary. So there's the COS version and the Topshop version, which are cut quite a bit longer. Quite relaxed fit, and then we've got the M one and the Mango one, which are cut a little bit shorter. I don't think it really matters which you go for. It's just personal, totally and utterly personal preference. So two patterns I've got for you. So for the long variant, I thought that the Modern Sewing Company Darcy coat would work perfectly for this. It had the really nice proportions. The collar is quite kind of big on this, which I thought would work really well if you were going to make that in the cord. It's got lovely deep pockets, and it just had a very, very similar silhouette, particularly to the COS and Topshop one. So I thought that would work absolutely perfectly. For a slightly more cropped one, I really love the Chalk and Notch Den jacket. If you haven't seen it before, it's a really lovely jacket. So it's cut slightly shorter. You could obviously make this a bit bigger, and I would probably say if I was going to make it closer, I'd probably size up 1 or 2 sizes to make it a bit more baggy. But it has really nice details on, which is why I included it, and it felt quite close. So you can see that it's got lots of seams. If I show you the line drawing, it's got really interesting seam lines running across this. So you can see that there are kind of panels down the front, the little patch pocket, the sleeve has different, it's cut in lots of different pieces. Basically you're going to get really, really familiar with top stitching for this. But this to me felt like a really good option for that sort of barn style jacket. I will say that if you do own any workwear style jacket patterns already, that would also work perfectly. And if you just make sure you get like a sandy colour canvas for the base, and then a kind of chocolatey brown cord for the collar, then you're good to go. Next up on the coat front, we have got shearling jackets. This again was very heavy featured, and again ties into what we were talking about with the contrast of textures, because you've got that lovely kind of either shiny leather or dull suede mixed with the shearling. Again, as you can see from this, quite a few different styles of coat. It's more about the fabric than the actual sort of silhouette, but I would say probably slightly oversized as a kind of whole. So I actually have got 3 different jackets for this, and they're quite different, but I think they all sort of tick the box. So the first one is the Vicky Sews Madison jacket. This felt closest to a kind of traditional biker jacket, I guess, but it would work really fantastically in shearling. If I show you the line drawing for this, just to give you an idea, there's quite a lot going on. There's lots of different seams. So this is going to be quite an involved make if you're using a heavyweight fabric like a shearling. So it's definitely something to take note. I do have a couple of more simple options if you look at that and think, oh my goodness, that looks like a full-on sort of project. So don't worry. So next pattern I thought would work really well, and this is quite a nice simple one actually. It's a Sew Over It Amelia jacket. Now this I would, as we were talking about before, I would size up maybe 2 sizes on this to make it a bit more kind of baggy, because the Sew Over It style is always quite fitted. But the shape of this felt really great actually. So you can see, if I show you the line drawing, it's got this lovely little collar. It's quite cropped. There's little darts at the bust, zip up the front. And it's got elasticated around the cuffs, but I thought this would be a really lovely option in shearling, and again quite simple. I think you could it wouldn't be so difficult, but yeah, just a note on the sizing on that, because I think you might want to make it a little bit bigger. And then I thought this grain line Cortland trench would also work really nicely. I might leave off for the storm flap, but I feel like the shape of it feels really close with, and it's got that double-breasted thing that a couple of the pictures had. I thought this would work really nicely, and it's quite kind of boxy and roomy as well, so it would work really great with the shearling. So that is it for my shearling jackets. Next up, see, I told you there's a lot of coats. Next up, we have got the trench coat. This was a really big theme. Obviously the trench coat is a classic, you know, it comes out every season. It's particularly sort of trans-seasonal, but I did see a lot of them. Fabric of these were heavyweight cottons. Also, I saw some quite interesting sort of technical wear that were made to look smart. So waterproof options, and also wool as well. You can see that checked one, which is really fab. So patterns wise, I've got 3 really great options. So the first one is a very, very classic kind of trench. It's a Vogue 2055. I included this because it's not super fitted, it's quite kind of roomy, it's got really nice details and double-breasted and what you would expect. So that's a really good option if you're looking for something very kind of close to a very traditional trench. The middle one is the Paper Cut Patterns Eliza trench. I put this one in because you can see one of the patterns, or one of the images, had a much more pared down trench style. So without all the kind of flaps and storm flaps and flaps, you know what I mean, all the other bits, buttons down the front, but it was cut much more simply, and I thought this one would work really nicely. And then finally, I popped in the named Isla trench because I feel like I can't talk about trench coats without including this. This is, and if you prefer indie patterns to commercials, then this one kind of ticks the sort of traditional trench box, but it's one that's been super popular with everyone within the sewing industry. It's been around forever, it's so tried and tested. So, and I loved named, particularly their instructions are fantastic, so you're in very safe hands if you wanted to make a trench coat. So that is that. And then last but not least, within the coat department, we've got the wrap coat. So this super cozy, slightly tailored but relaxed kind of feel to it. I love these because they basically feel like a dressing gown that you can wear out and about and look smart in. And you know, the colder it gets, the further you can wrap yourself in it. And yeah, I think this would feel really luxurious and very comforting, and there were lots and lots of these. So I've got 2 really fantastic patterns actually, and the first one's a newish one. It's the McCall's 8438. I love this. I love that big sort of collar on it, that sort of statement feel to it. This pattern also comes with a version so you can take the sleeves off as well if you wanted to. You just make it as like a layering piece. But I thought this was really fantastic. If you wanted something that felt a little bit more traditional with a kind of classic notch collar, the Bella Loves Grace pattern, or Bella Loves Patterns Grace coat, sorry, that's a bit of a mouthful, it would be a really nice option. You'd learn lots of tailoring techniques with this. It's a really, really lovely, lovely, lovely pattern. So that is it on the outerwear department. Now, do you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of outerwear options. So I actually think I'm going to stop here, and then I will be back next weekend with more bits. So I'm going to cover dresses, tops, bottoms, skirts next weekend. Okay, so I hope that was good, and I'll see you next weekend.